Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. And honestly, if you clicked on this video, Healing Prayer for When You Feel Abandoned, I have a feeling your heart might be carrying something pretty heavy right now. Maybe you've been walking through a season where you feel forgotten. Maybe people you counted on suddenly disappeared. Maybe someone you trusted let you down. Or maybe it's something deeper, something you can't even put into words. Just that ache in your chest that says, no one sees me, no one hears me, no one's coming. If that's you right now, first of all, I just want you to know you're not crazy for feeling this way. And more importantly, you're not alone, you're not invisible. And even if the world has gone silent around you, I promise you God hasn't. I've been there too, you know? There was a season in my life where I was surrounded by people but still felt completely abandoned. I would go to work, smile, do the small talk thing, nod at all the right moments, but deep down I was aching. It felt like I was walking through fog. I'd text people and get no reply. I'd show up to help others, but when I needed support, crickets. And at night, when the world finally quieted down, that's when the weight of it hit me hardest. That voice in my head would whisper, "See? No one cares. You don't matter. You're alone in this." And if you've ever heard that voice too, I just want to say, I get it. I really do. But here's the thing. That voice, that lie, it's not the truth. It might feel true. It might echo through your soul so loudly that it drowns out everything else. But it's not the truth. Because even when everyone else fades away, even when your phone stays silent, even when the support system you thought you had disappears, God stays. God doesn't leave when it gets hard. He doesn't ghost you when you're not at your best. He doesn't walk away when you're too tired to pray or too angry to pretend. He stays. He sits with you in the silence. He hears every unspoken cry. He sees every tear that falls in the dark. And even when it feels like he's not saying anything back, he's there. That's what we're going to lean into today. We're going to talk about what it means to pray from that place, not from a mountaintop of confidence, but from a valley of brokenness. Because sometimes the most powerful healing prayers aren't loud or poetic. They're whispered through tears. They're messy. They're unfinished. But God meets us there. And today I want us to walk through that kind of prayer together. So if you're feeling forgotten, if you're feeling abandoned, if you're feeling like the people who were supposed to be there for you just aren't, this video is for you. This time is for you. And we're going to make space for your pain. We're not going to rush past it. We're going to hold it with kindness, and we're going to invite God into it, not with perfect words, but with open hearts. Stick with me, okay? I'm going to share a real story in just a moment, something raw and honest that I think you'll connect with. And by the end of this video, my hope is that you'll walk away not just feeling comforted, but reminded that the very places you feel most abandoned are the very places God is drawing closest. You know, talking about feeling abandoned brings back memories of someone I used to know. Her name was Laura. And I think a lot of you might relate to her story. Maybe more than you'd expect. Laura was one of those people who always showed up for others. She was the friend who answered the 2 a.m. calls, who remembered your birthday when no one else did, who dropped everything just to sit with you when your world was falling apart. But behind that kindness, behind all those smiles, was a woman carrying more loneliness than anyone ever guessed. It all started to unravel for her after her mom passed away. They were incredibly close. Her mom wasn't just her parent, but her anchor, her cheerleader, her safe place. When she died suddenly, Laura's whole world cracked open. At first, people showed up. There were flowers, texts, messages, meals left at her door. But 2 weeks later, silence. Life moved on, for everyone else. But Laura was stuck in this frozen place where everything hurt and nothing made sense anymore. She told me one night that the worst part wasn't the grief. It was feeling like she vanished from people's minds. Like her pain had an expiration date, and once it passed, so did the attention, the support, the presence. She started having these long days where she wouldn't hear from a single soul. And at night, she'd sit on her couch with the TV on for background noise, just to not feel so alone. She said, "I don't even want someone to fix it. I just want someone to know I'm here, that I still exist." She tried to push through. She journaled. She tried therapy. She even signed up for a couple of support groups. But nothing seemed to lift that heavy weight of isolation. Until one evening, something shifted. She was walking through a bookstore. She didn't even know why she went there, really, and her eyes landed on a small devotional called Prayers for the Lonely Heart. She picked it up, kind of skeptically, flipped through a few pages, and something in one of the prayers stopped her cold. It said, "Lord, when I feel like no one sees me, remind me that you do." She stood there holding that book, like it was the first time someone had actually said what she was feeling. She bought it, took it home, and that night, instead of turning on Netflix, she opened the first page and just whispered the words, "God, I don't know if you're listening, but I can't carry this anymore. If you're here, I need you to show me." That was it. No fancy language, no perfect prayer posture, just raw, aching honesty. And you know what? She told me later that something in the room changed. Not dramatically, no voice from heaven, but a stillness, a quietness she hadn't felt in months. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel completely alone. She started doing it every night, just 5 minutes. Sometimes less. Sometimes she'd fall asleep crying in the middle of a prayer. But little by little, something began to shift in her spirit. The loneliness didn't vanish overnight, but it stopped defining her. She began to feel held, not by people, most of them were still distant, but by something deeper, something steadier, something holy. She'd wake up some mornings with a verse in her heart, or a sudden urge to go for a walk and see the sunrise. One time she told me, "It's weird, but I don't feel invisible anymore." Not because people suddenly showed up, but because God did. One of the most powerful moments for her came during one of those prayer times when she just broke down and said, "God, why did everyone leave?" And what she felt in her spirit was this whisper, "I didn't." And that became the anchor she needed. Every time the silence screamed, every time the loneliness tried to creep back in, she'd whisper it back to herself, God didn't leave. God didn't leave. God didn't leave. It became her lifeline. And eventually, things around her did start to shift. New friendships blossomed, ones that felt deeper and more real than the ones she lost. She began volunteering, helping other women who were grieving, and she started praying with them too. Simple, healing prayers that came from her own pain. And I think that's the beautiful full circle of it all. The places where she felt most abandoned became the places God used most powerfully. Her healing didn't erase the past, but it gave purpose to it. And now when someone says, "I feel like no one sees me," she doesn't just say, "I'll pray for you." She sits beside them and says, "I've been there. Let's pray together." Laura's story reminds me every time I feel alone that healing doesn't always come from crowds or constant texts or people fixing everything. Sometimes healing comes in a quiet moment where you show up with all your broken pieces and say, "God, I'm here. Please meet me." And the amazing thing? He always does. You see, healing prayer isn't about saying the right words or checking all the spiritual boxes. It's not some magic formula where if you get the phrasing just right, God shows up like a genie and fixes everything. Healing prayer is so much more beautiful, and honestly, so much more real than that. It's about coming to God with your most vulnerable, raw, messy self and saying, "I need you." That's it. And that's where everything changes. Because when we feel abandoned, what our soul is truly aching for isn't just the return of people or attention or a change in circumstances. What we're aching for is connection. Real, deep, heart-to-heart connection with the one who knows us better than anyone else ever could. And that's exactly what healing prayer offers. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. It's about knowing that when everyone else walks out, God walks in. When your texts go unread, God leans in to listen. When the silence gets loud and the nights get long and your heart starts to believe the lie that you're too much or not enough, or just forgotten, healing prayer is the place where you start hearing the truth again. That you are seen, you are valued, and you are not alone. One of the most beautiful things I've learned is that Jesus knows exactly what it feels like to be abandoned. I mean, think about it. He was betrayed by one of his closest friends, denied by another, and left completely alone in his darkest hour. On the cross, he even cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" He felt that distance, that silence, that crushing weight of loneliness. And because he experienced it, he can meet us in it. That's what makes our faith so powerful. It's not about a distant God looking down at us from some lofty throne, unmoved by our pain. It's about a Savior who stepped into our brokenness, who sat with outcasts, who wept with mourners, who reached out to the ones the world forgot. And when we pray to Him in our abandonment, we're not praying to someone who doesn't understand. We're praying to someone who's been there. Someone who's felt it, and someone who overcame it. I remember once hearing a pastor say, God doesn't always pull you out of the fire right away, but He always gets in the fire with you. And that stuck with me, because sometimes healing doesn't look like an instant miracle. Sometimes it looks like waking up and realizing you're not crying alone, that there's peace in the room that wasn't there before, that the weight on your chest feels just a little lighter, that your thoughts aren't as sharp with pain as they were yesterday, that you laughed again, even if just for a second, that you made it through another day. And friend, that is healing. That is the quiet, steady work of a God who never leaves. You know, one of my favorite verses in the Bible is from Isaiah 49 verse 15 to 16. It says, "Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has borne? Though she may forget, I will not forget you. See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands." Isn't that powerful? God is saying, even if the people who should love you the most walk away, even if the ones who promise to stay forget you, He won't. He's written your name on His hands. That's not metaphorical to Him. That's personal. That's commitment. That's love. And when we lean into healing prayer, we start to experience that love, not as an idea, but as a presence, a peace, a whisper in the silence that says, "I'm still here." And that's why I'm so passionate about healing prayer, especially for those who feel abandoned. Because it's not about pretending everything's okay. It's not about rushing past the pain or finding the silver lining or saying some religious words to feel better. It's about showing up exactly as you are, tear-streaked, angry, confused, exhausted, and saying, "God, I don't know what to do, but I need you." And somehow, in that honest moment, something shifts. Maybe not everything, maybe not right away, but enough to keep breathing, enough to stand up again, enough to remember that even in the most desolate places, there's still hope. So if you're watching this and you've been feeling like no one's been checking on you, like you've been sitting in silence for way too long, like you're starting to believe it, that you're invisible to the world, please hear this. God sees you. He hasn't walked away. He hasn't turned His face from you. He is with you right now, even as you listen to these words. And every time you pray, even if it's just one sentence, even if it's whispered through tears, you are not praying into a void. You are being heard, you are being held, and you are being healed. So let's talk about how we actually do this. How do we practice healing prayer when we feel abandoned? I know for some of us, prayer can feel intimidating, especially when our hearts are heavy or broken. It can feel awkward or empty, like you're just talking into the air. And maybe you've tried before, and it didn't feel like anything changed. That's okay. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be a spiritual expert. You don't even have to have the right words. What matters most is showing up with an open heart, even if that heart is bruised or bitter or confused. So here's where I'd start, and it's what I do when I feel forgotten or unseen. First, find a quiet space. It doesn't have to be fancy or holy or perfectly clean. It could be your car, your closet, your bed, or even a corner of your kitchen. Just somewhere you can sit and breathe for a moment without distractions. Then, take a few slow, deep breaths. Let your shoulders relax. Feel your body grounding itself. Close your eyes if that helps. You're not trying to perform. You're just making space. And then just start talking. No script, no pressure. Just let it out. You could say something like, "God, I feel so alone. I feel like everyone has left. I feel invisible, forgotten, Like no one even knows I'm hurting, but I'm here, and I'm asking, are you here too? That's it. You don't have to be eloquent. You don't have to be poetic. You just have to be real. Sometimes the most powerful prayers I've ever prayed have been 3 words: God, help me. And honestly, sometimes they've just been tears. The Bible even says that the Spirit intercedes for us when we don't have the words, when all we can do is groan or cry. So if all you can do is sit in that quiet space and weep, that counts. That is prayer. That is connection. Now, if it helps, you can also write your prayers out. Journaling can be such a beautiful form of healing prayer. You might start with, Dear God, and just pour your heart out. You can write your anger, your confusion, your sadness. God can handle it. He already knows what's in your heart anyway. But when you write it down, something powerful happens. It becomes a sacred conversation, a sacred release. It's like taking the heaviness inside of you and giving it a place to rest. And if you feel led, you can end those journal entries with a simple request like, God, please show me I'm not alone. Please remind me you're near. It's not about getting immediate answers. It's about inviting God into your silence, your story, your pain. Another powerful way to practice healing prayer is through stillness. I know that might sound strange. How do you pray without talking? But here's the thing. Prayer is a two-way conversation. And sometimes, after we've poured out our hearts, the best thing we can do is sit in stillness and listen. Not with our ears necessarily, but with our spirit. After you've spoken your prayer or written it down, just sit quietly for a few minutes. Maybe play some soft instrumental worship music in the background if that helps. And then ask, God, what do you want me to know right now? And then wait. You might feel a word rise up in your spirit, like loved, or held, or seen. You might get a picture in your mind of Jesus sitting beside you. You might feel nothing at all, but later that day, someone sends you a message out of the blue, or you read something that hits your heart in just the right way. Healing prayer doesn't always happen in dramatic moments. Often, it's in these gentle, quiet nudges that we begin to sense. I am not alone. God is here. And if you're someone who likes having a little structure, here's a simple prayer you can start with. Something to anchor you when you don't have your own words. You can whisper it, say it out loud, or just speak it in your heart. God, I feel alone. I feel left behind. Like the people I needed most are no longer here. But I believe you are. Even if I can't feel you, even if I don't understand why things happened the way they did, I'm asking you now, please meet me here, in this quiet place, in this broken place. Show me that you're still with me. Help me to feel your presence, even just a little. Hold my heart, heal the parts of me that are still bleeding. I trust you with my pain, and I invite you into it. Not to rush it away, but to sit with me in it. Thank you for never leaving. Amen. That's it. That's the kind of prayer that opens doors, that shifts atmospheres, not because it's long or fancy, but because it's honest. And when you make space for God in your most vulnerable moments, He always fills that space with something holy. You can do this every day. It doesn't have to be a big event. 5 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes before bed. a quick breath in your car before work. Healing prayer is not about the length. It's about the consistency, the relationship, the willingness to show up again and again, even when it still hurts, even when you're not sure if anything is changing. Because it is. Healing is happening, even if it's happening slowly, even if it's happening beneath the surface, even if you don't feel it yet. God is working. God is moving. And every time you pray, you are stepping closer to freedom. Now I get it. Building a habit, especially one that's deeply personal like healing prayer, it's not always easy. Especially when you're walking through abandonment or loneliness, it can be hard to even want to try. Like, what's the point? Right? I've had those mornings when I wake up and think, does it even matter if I pray today? Will anything be different? And friend, I'm here to tell you, it does matter. Even if it's quiet, even if it's simple, even if it doesn't feel spiritual or powerful or dramatic, your consistency in showing up is doing more in your heart than you realize. But that doesn't mean it's always going to be natural or automatic. So let me share a few gentle tips that have helped me and others keep showing up, day after day, moment after moment, even when it feels hard. One of the simplest things that changed everything for me was setting a small reminder on my phone. Not a blaring alarm, not something that screams at you like, "Hey, go pray." No, something soft. Maybe even label it something comforting like, "Quiet with God," or "You're not alone." I have mine set for the same time each morning, just a gentle nudge that says, "Come be with me." It's not a task, it's an invitation. And even when I don't feel like it, I see that reminder and it grounds me again. It reminds me that I'm not forgotten and that I don't want to forget God either. Another thing that really helped me was pairing prayer with something that brings me comfort. Maybe for you, that's a warm cup of tea or coffee. Maybe it's sitting by your favorite window or wrapping yourself in a cozy blanket. For me, it's lighting a candle. Every time I light it, I whisper, "God, I'm here." And somehow, that simple act signals to my heart that it's time to connect. It makes the moment feel sacred, even if the rest of the day is loud or messy or full of emotion. You don't need a perfect environment to pray. You just need a trigger that brings your soul into that space. And speaking of space, don't be afraid to make a little prayer corner in your home. Nothing fancy. Maybe a chair, a notebook, a small cross, or picture that reminds you of God's love. A place where, when you sit there, your heart knows this is where healing happens. This is where I talk to my Father. And if you're someone who finds it hard to stay focused during prayer, journaling can be a game changer. I know I mentioned it before, but seriously, it works wonders. After each prayer session, take just a minute or two to jot down how you feel. Maybe it's just one word. Maybe it's a sentence like, "I felt a little peace today," or "Still confused, but glad I showed up." Over time, you'll begin to see patterns. You'll see growth. You'll see that even on the days when it felt like nothing was happening, God was still moving. Looking back through those journal entries after a few weeks or months is like reading your own story of healing, chapter by chapter. And trust me, there's nothing more encouraging than seeing proof of God's faithfulness in your own handwriting. You can also try breath prayers. These are short, simple prayers you can whisper throughout your day, tied to your breathing. When you inhale, say in your mind, God, you're here. When you exhale, say, and I'm not alone. It's something you can do in line at the grocery store, sitting in traffic, or lying awake at night. It keeps you anchored, it keeps you connected. And over time, it becomes second nature, a quiet rhythm of remembering that you're seen and held. And here's something I really want you to hear. Don't beat yourself up if you miss a day, or if you go a whole week and realize, I haven't prayed once. This is not about shame. This is not about perfection. This is about relationship, and relationships are built on grace. If you wander off, God doesn't sit there angry. He runs to meet you when you return, every single time. So if you feel like you've messed up or fallen off or failed in your routine, just come back. Just say, God, I'm here again, and He'll say, I never left. Lastly, surround yourself, at least virtually, with others who are also walking this path. Maybe it's watching videos like this. Maybe it's following faith-based pages that remind you to pray. Maybe it's texting a friend and saying, hey, let's check in with each other once a week and pray together. You were never meant to heal alone. Even when people fail you, and they sometimes will, there are still others out there who want to grow in this with you. You're not as alone as you think. So here's what I want to leave you with today in this part. Healing prayer isn't about performance. It's about presence. It's not about how many days in a row you pray. It's about how willing you are to keep coming back, to keep opening the door, to keep saying, God, I'm still here and I still need you. And when you do that day after day with grace and gentleness and honesty, healing becomes a way of life, not just a moment, not just a one-time prayer, but a beautiful ongoing relationship with the one who never abandoned you to begin with. Hey, before we wrap up today, I just want to take a second and look right at you. Yeah, you. And remind you of something that maybe no one's told you in a while. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are not too far gone. Whatever abandonment you've experienced, whatever silence has been sitting heavy in your soul, whatever part of you has started to believe that maybe God left too, I'm here to tell you He didn't. He never walked away. Not for a second. Even in the loneliest moments, even when it felt like no one noticed your pain, even when the prayers felt like they hit the ceiling, He was there, right beside you, holding you when you didn't even realize you were being held. And I believe with everything in me that you didn't click on this video by accident. You're here because God is chasing after your heart, because He wants you to know you are seen, you are valued, and you are so deeply loved. This moment right now, it's not the end of your story. It's a turning point, a place where healing begins, not because everything suddenly makes sense or gets fixed overnight, but because you've decided to invite God into the very place where it hurts the most. That takes courage. That takes trust. And that's exactly what faith looks like. So please give healing prayer a real chance. Not just a one-time moment, but an ongoing relationship. Start today. Start with one sentence, one breath, one whispered, God, I need you. That's more than enough. Let that be your first step. And if you already started but you're feeling discouraged, I want you to know that's okay. You don't have to be perfect at this. You just have to be honest. Just keep showing up. Keep opening your heart. Healing isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet and slow and sacred, but it's real and it's happening right now in you. And hey, if this resonated with you, if even a single part of this video made you feel a little less alone, a little more hopeful, I'd be so honored if you hit that subscribe button and became part of this community here on Live According to God's Word. This space isn't just about content. It's about connection. It's about real stories, real struggles, and real healing through faith. And I'd love to walk this journey with you side by side. If you feel comfortable, leave me a comment below and tell me what kind of healing you're praying for. Or maybe just say, I'm here, so I know you watched and we can stand in faith together. I promise I read every single one. And I pray for you. You matter. Your heart matters, and your healing matters. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I don't take it lightly. Wherever you are, whatever you're facing, please remember, God's presence is closer than the hurt. His love is louder than the silence, and His healing is already at work in ways you may not even see yet. Until next time, stay strong, stay hopeful, and keep praying. You are not alone. I'll see you in the next video.